And we're live. Unlike the previous times I've had Heather on, we are not here to talk about quality, timeless literature like Shakespeare. We're talking
Oh,
about For the Killing of Kings by Howard Andrew
seems
Jones.
all tabbed up.
For anyone who doesn't know Heather, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a bit.
My name's Heather. I am a professor at Purdue University, and yeah, I have a couple degrees in English. We usually discuss Shakespeare. Today we're doing fantasy. So
I was gonna say this is quite a step down from what we
yeah,
usually discuss.
I was really hoping. I had high hopes, and maybe that's where my problem was.
I already owned a copy of the first book because a
Oh,
long time ago someone had recommended it to me really highly. So I had got it, but I hadn't read it. And
yeah.
then we now received the full trilogy. So I have 2 copies of the first book. And my God. Like I was like going into it be like, oh, this will be pretty good. Like,
Right.
it'll be fine. And
Yeah.
it was so bad. So these tabs signify when something is wrong, bad, or dumb. And like at the halfway point, I was like, I need to just stop tabbing and just finish this thing. And then I would come across something heinously stupid. And I was like, no, I have to tab that too.
Yeah.
So I tabbed all the way through.
I was having every time I rolled my eyes at something, like either a description or a plot point, and then I got like, yeah. Then I was like, okay, I just need to finish this.
Is it an agenda or a book title or the title of Jamie Lannister's autobiography? Okay, I mean, honestly, like the part of this book where we get the reason for it being called For the Killing of Kings, I was like I didn't at that point. I was not expecting it to be good, but I was like, this is so stupid.
Well, and it doesn't make any sense for it to be titled that way when it's supposedly like a matriarchal society. Like,
I mean, there's so much to it. So like, I mean, very quickly, no spoilers for anyone that wants to not be spoiled. How would you like sum up this book, like neutrally? Like, what is it about?
it's about probably like a couple of soldiers trying to uncover a conspiracy within like their realm, a realm that is
Yeah.
also in contest with like a bunch of other.
There's like an institution for magic users, and there's like conspiracy among the magic users. So there's like 2 perspectives, one that's like on the outside and one that's like kind of on the inside. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like what's hard about this book is that it seems a little bit unfocused. Like you're trying to get
Like honestly, I was like, what even is this? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? What is the point of any of
especially
this?
like, the first 100 pages is about this like missing sword. And I don't know, it just it keeps on like hinting to this bigger conspiracy, but even when you find out what that conspiracy is, like the stakes never feel that high.
Yeah. So I mean, just like that was it for non-spoilers. We'll just dive in now, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I was gonna say, so like, I mean, a lot of it is to do, like you said, there's like a hero who everyone believes dead, mystical, magical sword that was that hero's sword that is like a treasured artifact, but is
Mhm.
also maybe missing. And there's like all these like things about, mysteries from the past or things that you believed that are actually untrue about the government or whatever. And the thing is, like, I was not clear up until even the end what is the status quo. So for you to be trying to shock me with upsetting the status quo or learning the status quo has been a lie. I'm like, I don't even know what the fucking status quo is. So like I'm not shocked. I'm just like, what? Is what?
Usually, like if it's like an urban fantasy that takes place in the real world, you just take our status quo and like apply it. But here, I mean, he is not only is he creating a fantasy world that like like the realms exist differently than how we even imagine Earth going, because there
Mhm.
seems to be like realms that are like on top of each other, like a weird kind of like physics journey that we go on.
Makes no
But
kind of
then, like,
sense.
also the entire way that this society is supposedly built, like, only queens rule. There's only goddesses. There's not like gods. So, I mean, it's like it sets you up thinking that even like the very structures and status quo are like different because it's supposedly this like matriarchal society, but that's not what happens either. Like, there's no kind of like fleshed out world
Well,
building.
also then
All of
like
these ideas, like, he just takes a bunch of ideas and throws them to a book, but like none of it is ever fleshed out.
well again, so supposedly on its surface you would expect it to be matriarchal and therefore like less or a different version of sexism than we'd be
Yeah.
used to. But
Yeah.
the main characters like act like this is a patriarchy. But
Yes.
then it is the laziest, most ridiculous characterization of the enemy where they just show up and out of nowhere make some kind of like gay feminine joke. And I'm like, oh, surprise. Like the enemy is immediately diving into, and you have women on your side. Ah ha ha, this means you're weak. And I'm like, are you for serious right now?
Yeah. And like and like the book spends like so much time building up this enemy that it like that's supposedly coming and invading their borders, like these people that they fought in the past. And like to some degree, the male MCs that we see is always trying to be like, no, we don't really like you don't really know who these people are. Like we're at war with them, but they are real people. Like it's trying to like do this thing where it's trying to give empathy to like the other side. But then when we meet the other side, they're very like primitive, right? Like it's a stereotypical like primitive view
Well,
that's like
also, I mean, well, the way that the enemy is written and the way that low key everything is written is it feels like a video game. Like the way the magic works, the way that like their questing works, the way that the information is delivered to you, the way that the enemy like is like the final boss that you have to like beat with your like magic MacGuffins that you literally recharge. And
yeah,
like that's how it works. It's like you have like vitality bars for like,
yeah.
oh, you've almost run out, and then some friend of yours can like recharge you, and you're like also ready to fight on. Like I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read.
It's like inconsistent, right? Because like one person, like
I
we
still have no idea what the magic system is.
no, because they like she tells you so like you get like primarily just like two or three like point of views. It's told in the third person, but you get like specific point of views.
Well,
And
it's
one
like
of the
mainly two, except for occasionally when we decided we needed someone else's perspective. So instead of like a disciplined author who's like, well, this isn't one of my perspectives, so how am I going to do it? No, I'm just going to randomly make this a perspective for like a hot second. And
yeah,
okay, we're back to our regular perspectives.
right. And so Alani, I think that's how you say her name. I don't know.
I think
Is
it's
Alani
Eleni.
Elena as good as any, right?
It's spelled like Elena, but with an I at the end. So like I was like,
Okay.
Elena.
Do that. Eleni is like the main female point of view, and like she is describing the magic system to us. Alan.
Yeah, Eleni.
She's describing the magic system to us, and she says like, "Oh, I do like 2 minutes of magic, and I'm already spent." But then like proceeds to do like hours of magic, and like no, like hardly any repercussions. Like,
And even oh, and then like so like when both the perspectives, so Eleni and Rylan are basically our two perspectives for the most part. And both of them are magic users. Both of them are like the same like magic user like I don't know, institution. And they both use like the inner sight, which is when they like switch to like magic view. And it's literally like Witcher sense in the Witcher games when you like, you hit the button and now you have Witcher sense and now you like see the like underlying magical more knowledge of the area thing. It's like a freaking video game.
yeah, yeah, and it's like that doesn't make sense either because okay, so Eleni and Rylan are part of this magic institution, but they're also soldiers. But then you also have mages who are sort of soldiers
A
too,
mage auxiliary.
but they're primarily magic.
They
And
wear a different color.
they wear a different color. Not quite clear what like their difference in skill level are. Like it's not like
I mean, I don't like Mark Lawrence very much, so but also I know how like
well,
with
since Mark
authors in
Lawrence doesn't
particular,
know
like
how to
authors,
explain his character either, then maybe that's why he likes
but
this
also like
person.
I know that authors reviewing other authors' work in the same genre, like unless they're known for being like Roxane Gay, who will like tell it like it is, like they mostly like toe the
Yeah.
line. They're like support my fellow colleague. 5 stars to your new book, 5 stars to my new book. So I
But
don't
it's
take that
the
very seriously.
same, but like they're men. Like I read only one Mark Lawrence book and I knew he was not for me. And then when I found out that he was like sort of a horrible human being to like women, I was like, oh, makes sense. Not gonna read him anymore. And then like so like that's what bothered me most about this person is that like the way
I
that
mean, Mark Lawrence, like he's not my favorite, but like he is a much better writer
Oh
than
yeah.
this.
But the things that bothers me, like the thing that bothered me about his book in the way that he wrote his characters, like
Which one did you read? I've read a couple.
Prince of Thorns
Okay,
or
I've read that as well. Red Sister's the one that everyone loves, and that one is like that's basically kind of matriarchal. It's like assassin nuns, and all the characters are like primarily female, but it feels like how a dude would imagine writing badass ladies
right.
rather than actually like badass ladies.
Right. Which is exactly how this one feels. Like it very is much like the strong female character archetype that like doesn't I mean it feels like what happens a lot when men write women is that like they they seem to like I want to show that like women are different but also powerful, but like that difference is all that like comes across. And
Well,
it just reminds me of like George R.R. Martin when he was asked like how do you write women so well, and he's like I write them as people, and it doesn't feel like some authors like Lawrence and this person.
let's just say like when I asked Joe Abercrombie, like how he gets in the headspace of, well, no, I asked him how he gets in the headspace of bad characters, but then I was like, I wasn't even saying how do you write women well, because I just like take it as a like we understand you're a good writer, therefore you write women well. But more specifically, like things that I would forgive you not being good at, like periods and pregnancy, and like you've never experienced that. You don't even have the equipment to experience that. So like to write from the perspective of some woman who's experiencing like extremely specifically feminine bodily issues, like I was like, what did you do to write that or to research that or to like get in, that? And he was like, I don't know, you just kind of like put yourself in their shoes, and I don't know, you just kind of think like, I don't think it's rocket science, just kind of like figure out what they would be feeling. And I'm like, well, you would be surprised.
Yeah. Where it's like a lot of the times it's what's missing from
I mean, oh wait, Klaus, Heather also likes Abercrombie, so this is not there's gonna be many Abercrombie mentions here as well.
Yeah. He's like now become like the bar that I measure a lot of like fantasy against, because we've talked a lot about how Abercrombie can get you to like these really morally gray or even like downright awful characters, right? And like that's the problem with this one is I think that's what he's trying to do. Like he's trying with, especially with Ryland. Like I think part of making Ryland so sexist and always commenting on like women's bodies, like I think it's supposed to be this like mark of character growth that by the end he doesn't screw the girl. But like,
well, actually, so like I was gonna bring up Abercrombie anyway, because like as I was reading it, I was thinking to myself that Rylan is Giselle, but as written by Giselle, so
yes!
he doesn't know that it's bad.
I was actually thinking that exact same thought this morning in the shower. I was like, because I hated Giselle at first, remember? And but like you still kind of root for this like collective, and like even though you hate Giselle at first, like that Abercrombie is not speaking through him, that there's like he understands that like Giselle is a horrible character, but like Rylan, I mean, it seems like more of a self-insert than that. Like it seems like,
well, like once in a while, and we have, I mean, the female character who is like sort of his superior is not written well, and we'll get into that. But like here and there, she'll chime in with like, you need to stop thinking about sex and you need to stop thinking about whatever. But it like that is it. That's the only thing that's inserted to like undercut how often he thinks of women in like clearly objectifying ways. And again, Giselle does that all the time. And it's very, very clear that you're meant to think that Giselle's a piece of shit for objectifying women in this way. Yes. Whereas Rylan is like a hero who goes like on a hero's journey of like, he's earned the right to ride a dragon basically because he's the special. And like this like super brilliant lady who's his superior chose him out of everyone to like be her number two. She's like his one character flaw. He's like a little bit too into the ladies, but like, he's not a little too into the ladies. Like he's a piece of shit. Like I cannot tell you how many times I tabbed a page and like underlined something that Rylan either thought or said, and then just wrote in the margin, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Because like that's the problem. It's not that he's always thinking about sex that's the problem. It's the fact that he doesn't even like people. Like that's the problem with that. Like Giselle like starts to treat women as human beings. Like that's his journey. Whereas so it's like not just about like the sex part. And that's where this book misses the mark. It's not bad that Rylan wants to have sex with people. It's bad that he like treats women like as just bodies to like be
well, even the way that he describes the genius, which we'll talk about why she's not genius, but the genius superior is described to us in terms of like she's not that attractive and that like she's a bit older and like she's like nothing compared to these other ladies that are more attractive. And I'm like, sir, stop it.
And the one part that really bothered me, because again, like you can kind of say, okay, well, Ryland's a piece, like he's like sexist and that's why he's doing that and maybe he'll grow out of it. But there was that one moment where like the Varama, I don't know if that's her name,
Varama,
is that
yeah.
like there's like this one part where he watches her like fix her appearance in the mirror and he's like, I can't believe that she cares about her appearance. And it's like, that's the framing that really bothers me. It's like, because that's supposed to be like, oh, he's growing. He didn't, I don't know, like everything that's supposed to show his growth just like shows how it misses the mark.
But Andrea, any live on my channel is inevitably a first law chat. It's kind of like if you've read Good Omens, how every cassette and every CD in the car turns into Queen. Every live on my channel turns into First Law.
Yeah, and now that I've read it too.
Yeah. It always comes back to, because like it becomes a standard by which you measure everything else. You're like, you know how I know this can be done well? It's not just like a wish that I could see someone do this well. No, I've seen it done well. I know it can be done.
Yes. Done well. And this was not it.
This is not it.
Here, for you who just joined, this is what we're talking about.
It's 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. I mean, honestly, like I don't know what I'm gonna do with this because like I tabbed every page almost, and I wrote in the margins of a lot of the pages in pencil so I could erase it if I wanted to like sell it or something. But like I have basically annotated and tabbed this entire book, and most of my annotations are just like, what? No, fuck you. Are you serious? No. Wow.
It almost seems like the writing itself too is just part of the problem. Like there's too many adverbs. There's too many like
also like literally incorrect uses of words and incorrect structures of sentences.
Yeah, and it seems like it seems like what he's trying to do with some of his sentence structure is sound like he's writing a Tolkien novel. Like he's trying to like.
Except you still have to get the grammar right, buddy.
Right. It seems like he's trying to capture a tone of like a long time.
And here, well, that's what Tolkien did basically. I mean, he didn't annotate it, but like they gave him or offered him, no, I think they gave it to him, Dune by Frank Herbert, because you know even back then they did the thing of like, here's a copy for review basically because you're a big deal. And Tolkien, like to this day we don't know why, we just know that he was like disgusted with Dune and was like, do you want it back? Because I don't want this and I'm not gonna say anything about it. So like in Tolkien style, like, do you want this? I don't want this.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like silly. Like the one thing that I can't get over, which is how I knew I was going to hate it, was like when we meet the female MC, Eleni. Is that how we decided to say her name?
Eleni.
Okay.
Just think Elena, I.
Eleni. And anyways, when we meet E, call her E, she like gets up and like, she spends like her character introduction is her like getting dressed and like describing her appearance, and then she looks in the mirror and she says that her eyes looked guileless, and it's like
herself.
Who would like look at their own reflection and be like, I look guileless? And like, I think that was just like, she looks young and she's feeling like insecure about that. This woman is supposed to be in her like mid to late 20s. She's supposed to be like about to become like one of these important soldier type people. Like she's like has been in training for years. Yep. But yet, like he writes her like a stupid teenage girl. Like it's so condescending the way that he writes her. And it like really irritates me like the whole time. But like, I'm like, it would be different if she was like a teenager and this was YA. Like, I almost feel like you could.
Yeah, we'll never know. I would love to have like.
Only Tolkien had a booktube.
Twitter. I mean, I think he thought he's being. I mean, the most PC thing I think would have been to say nothing. So it was pretty rude to be like, "Do you want it back?" But like, he didn't actually say. Like he didn't like compose a blog about like, you know, why it was the worst. I would love to know. Like if I had, I mean, I'm sure he told personal acquaintance of his. So like I would have loved to have talked to the fellow. Yes. Tell me why. Yeah. Oh, apparently that he'd written the Oxford Standard Dictionary. Top tier troll. Okay, yeah, but back to this nightmare. Um, yeah, I mean, well, and there's just like a the word choice is often baffling, and like it does feel like, like wanting to use an SAT word where you probably should know what it means if you're going to use it, because that's not what that means actually. There's like so many times. So like again, these tabs are, for a lot of, probably the majority, but it would be like, 60 or 70 versus like 40, 30, is stuff that I thought was bad and dumb, like Ryland being a piece of shit. But there was like obscene amount of times where like I underlined something where I was like, that's not what those words mean in that combination, or like that's not what that word means, or like you can't use it that way,
Mhm.
or why. There's like a few instances of like you can't say anachronism because this is a fantasy world, but where like it feels like an oddly modern turn of phrase that they wouldn't have
And then he, like,
necessarily.
straight up alludes to Shakespeare, and I was like, "You can't do that. You
Well,
cannot."
speaking of, like, he wanted so badly for this, like, quoting of plays to be a thing, and I was like, "It is not a thing." And, like, in order for you to have, like, in universe, these words that, like, equal similarly to our universe where people just quote Shakespeare because, like, he just had a way with words, and those have stood the test of time, and people know these quotes even if they don't know the plays because they're just, like, marvelous ways of, like, saying a thing. Sir, you fail even at the just basic prose for telling your story. So to have the hubris to think that you could write some like lofty sounding in universe things that would have stood the test of time because they are pure poetry, like you didn't. And like half the time when you did it, those were some of the things I underlined and was like, that's not what those words mean together. Like this doesn't actually mean what you think it means.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but there was, like, a couple of moments where you could tell that he was trying to write, like, not a story, but a quote. Like, he wanted people to, like, take that out of the story and be like, "Whoa, this is
Or
brilliant."
was literally having his characters quote a thing that he himself wrote, but in universe, like, isn't
Yeah.
existing.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, for that to be said, like, it was clear that he only introduced the thing of Elle and I having come from a slightly theatrical background, just so that our POV would recognize when Kirkconnell was doing that, was like quoting
Right.
a play, because it is in no way like relevant to her character. I mean, it should be, but it's never actually like it's not a part of who she is. It's like really important to know about her. It doesn't come up in any other kind of way. It doesn't give her valuable insight into like maybe how to play a situation, because like there could have been like a really clever use of like they're tricking the enemy because they're pulling the scene from a play and that's how that was
Right.
handled in the play. And
Mhm.
like like code, sort of like if you recognize what I'm saying, you recognize that scene from the play, which means you know what I'm about to do, because that kind of thing. But they don't do that either. It's literally just so that when Kirkconnell says things that the author thinks sound like poetry, she'll be like, oh, he's quoting the third act of that famous play. And I'm like, why is that play famous? Because that was garbage.
Well, and it's like, and it's supposed to be like, "Oh, look, he's charming." Like, that's like, and it just feels like that's what I also hated about all of the character representations, especially the women.
Kirkconnell is basically so the difference between how Euron Greyjoy is in the actual Song of Ice and Fire books versus how Euron Greyjoy was in the final seasons of Game of Thrones, which they are not the same character. So Kirkconnell is like TV show version of Euron Greyjoy.
Yeah. It's like definitely like they're trying to do this like swagger over real substance. Like there's like all of these dudes are like cool dudes. They say like one like offhand
Well, they
comment.
keep like referring to like his madness and how he's just this wild card. I'm like, you can't just have him like say weird things or like
Yeah.
out of place things and be like, that's just how he be. He's such a wild dude. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
And like, and it feels like all like she does is just like react to his character. Like it feels like, and this is also why it's like it's like the writer was like, oh, I have this like female MC who ends up becoming important to the plot. But then what she does for most of the book, even though she does some impressive things in like the world of the
Well, they'd
book,
be impressive if I understood what the fuck she was
but
supposed to be doing.
like it seems like mostly she's just there to react to the male characters who are like her heroes essentially. So what happens is that like Kirkconnell, like basically he's like a hero. Like he's supposed to be like 10 to 15 years old. I couldn't even figure out like the age gap between them, but he's like
Older.
older of this like previous age before she joined, where like they defeated the big bad like 10 years ago. And that's why she decided to become like a soldier because of like these guys. And so like when he comes back to uncover the conspiracy and kind of she gets swept along because of her of things that she's done, and like she gets like swept into this conspiracy, but like she doesn't really have any like choice in it. She has like no like feelings about it. She just seems to be kind of swept along to be like, oh, here are my heroes. And then like she's just described as having a crush on them. Like these heroes that she hangs
Well,
around with. She's constantly feeling jealousy when like they talk to other women. She's constantly talking about how handsome they are and how attracted she is to them. But like it feels like so like a one-sided like little girl crush. It's just offensive
and
rather
it also
than
isn't enough of a hang up for her to where it's like an important part of her character either. Because
right.
yeah, I kind of forgot she seemed to have a crush until like it came back again to like it being really clear that Kirkconnell was like into this other chick, and she was like, oh, kind of jelly. I was like, oh, that's right. I guess you had a crush on him. Like it's not like significant to her internal journey either of like constantly like if that had been a thing with her, because like that'd be realistic that you know that you have this crush on somebody because he's literally like kind of a legend in his own time. So you'd be kind of like it's like that star power of just being kind of like nervous around him, and that like having to like reconcile is like, is it, do I really like him, or is it just that like he's like kind of a legend, and then like it was just like not really a thing. It was just there to be awkward and weird and kind of sexist. But
Right.
I was also confused.
Know that these guys are really great. Like we're supposed to like, see through her eyes that these guys are just really great, even though like we don't really know anybody, because it's like all we hear like from her are like her thoughts, but we don't get any feelings from her. We don't get feelings from anybody.
It was better about that than Norwegian Wood was. That was literally no feelings whatsoever. I was like, sir, are you a person? But anyway, but I was also genuinely confused, and for a sec I thought maybe like it was the same person, and that one was her first name, one was her last name, but it's two different people that Kirkconnell seems to have been romantically attached to, Ryala and also Calandra. And because I was like, because like bad dude with the what's this Decran?
Yes.
Yeah. He was jealous because Kirkconnell had like had a fling with Ryala, but then in the present day, who Kirkconnell is really upset about not having with him right now and having seemed to have lost is Calandra.
Right.
So I was like, who are they both his ladies? What?
Well, and it's like it again is like he's supposed to be like Rylan is just basically like a younger version of Kirkconnell. Like where basically when he was younger, he just like slept with everybody because he was so charming. But like,
so they never explain why Kirkconnell's eyes are weird.
They do. They do, but it doesn't make any sense because it's the same reason why, like, it says at some point that if you have a magic ability, sometimes you have a physical representation of that. So, Varma or whatever her name is has like blue skin.
But it's only him and her, right? One has bluish skin, and him. But like the biggest legend of their time, who they thought was dead but isn't actually dead, Nalor. Yeah. He doesn't seem to have any kind of
so that doesn't make it so that's like this is what happens in this world is that like so some people who have magic have like a physical mark that they have magic, but then like only two people do, and then like they don't even
they're not even the best magic users.
They're not even the best magic users. And what I don't understand, and this is what bothered me too, so if all of these people like Kirkconnell or whatever are all magic users, why is it that he makes Elani be the one that okay.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah. Okay. So the other part about this book is that they've discovered these like stones that
not only are they magic users, but they're higher ranked, more experienced, older, legendary magic users. Right. And she's like still, like the intern.
Right.
And like they're making the intern do all of the magicking. Like literally, even when like man from legend who they thought was dead is woken up again, he doesn't do anything magical except wield this damn sword. Right. And I'm like, I thought like if she was helping you, or if she was particularly good at one kind of magic and you're like, well, that seems to be your specialty, so do that. But the others are just like, here with our swords ready when you are to do the magic thing, we'll wait.
So then like I guess like they sort of say that she's a weaver, which is apparently a specific type of magic user, but again like none of this is explained in a way that like you understand consistent rules in this universe, because she'll say, oh, I feel other weavers in like my magic vision, but
in her Witcher sense,
she says like, oh, I feel other weavers, but they never tell you what weavers are, or if there's like different levels of different kind of users. So again, like Kirkconnell.
Well, it seems to me that maybe it was because like when they found the Hearthstone, which like we can talk about how Hearthstones make no kind of sense, but that she found the Hearthstone and Kirkconnell couldn't like make heads or tails of it, but she could. And
Right.
so then since she could, and he was like, they're super dangerous. You shouldn't use them. But also for this entire quest, we're going to keep asking you to use the Hearthstone, even though I told you you shouldn't use it because it's super dangerous.
And everybody else who uses the Hearthstones like fall in love with the power kind of. And I wrote at one point it was kind of like the magic ring from Lord of the Rings. Like
Yeah.
if you wear it too much, it like makes you go insane and you
Lolly.
start to like become obsessed with it, which is what happens to everybody else but her. Her uses.
Well, also Decran, who I also did not expect to die as quickly as he did, because he seemed to be set up as like a quite a huge antagonist for them, and then he just died, and I was like, okay,
Well, and
that's fine.
you hear about the guy that starts with an M from like the other lands, like the big warrior.
Mazakan. And I was going to say about the naming quickly. So, like, there's a city called Elantris, spelled with an A. There's a book with the title Elantris with an E by Brandon Sanderson, and it's about a city called Elantris. So I was like, are you allowed to change it to an A and it's like phonetically the exact same and call your city Elantris? And then like Mazakan sounded so similar to like Malazan, which is like, you know, the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. There's just like a few names where I was like, these are your contemporaries. I don't think you're allowed to use these.
Yeah. So we hear about Matt, whatever his name is. We hear about him, and he is the warrior king of this distant land that is fighting the land.
And it's prophecy that Nalor with Irian, the sword Irian, is gonna kill him someday.
So like again, this is a trilogy. So you think, oh, we're gonna, you know, they're talking about how like he's been preparing for battle for years, and how like it's gonna be so hard. And they see the army walking, and it's such a big army. But then like they do the thing that some people like I hate when books do, which is basically they make it like this really easy way of defeating it. Like the way that they end up defeating this giant army is that Alani like scares their cattle, and like the cattle tramples the army.
I mean, they basically Mufasa him.
Yeah. An entire army, like an entire army. And you're like, oh, so we've been like waiting this whole time for a battle, and they just like.
Well, I mean, there is like a fairly large amount of the force still left, which then attacks them. But I mean, can we also just talk about the nonsense battle strategies in this book? Because like the idea that this army, which is still an army, like they decimated a good chunk of it with the Mufasa strategy, but like there is like a good huge, like a large substantial force still that would need to be defeated. And so this handful of magic users, there's like I think 5 of them, because Kirkconnell does a little like speech that's like meant to be Shakespearean of like the 5 who stood against them, and I was like, no. But anyway, so they have taken like a high position, and they're so that that's more defensible, so that they can like attack this like larger force, this larger army, and then that army is now willfully like knows that that's happening and is attacking these 5 people that are on this hill. And like, if you're defending a village, if you're defending a fortress, if you're defending people, then this is, you need to stand your ground and you're going to do it any way that you can. But they're not. Like, there is no village here. There is nothing to be defending. And there are 5 of you. And there's a large force. So the only thing that really makes sense for you to do is guerrilla warfare, where you would infiltrate their lines and get them and pick them off one by one.
Yeah.
But instead, they're acting like they're defending a fortress, which, like, I don't know why they're defending this hill. This is literally the hill they've chosen to die on, and I don't know why. Because part 2, why would the army attack this hill? Because there's no actual strategical reason for them to want to gain the ground of the hill. Like, they don't need to get over there. They could just be like, it's cool that you're up on that hill, but we're just gonna keep on marching as we were marching. I don't know why you're on a hill. Bye-bye.
Well, like the enemy force is described as like super dumb. Like they're like brute force and dumb, but then like they're supposed to be super scary. You can't have something be super scary but also like dumb and bad at
I mean, I was low-key just picturing the sort of like the hordes in Warcraft.
Right. Or like
because it's a video game.
Right. Or just like that sea of orcs where they're just like nonsense monsters, but they're not. They're humans. And so then like there's still troops left, but then like the warrior king M decides that he's going to like fight Nalar as like this kind of
defend the French locale. I mean, yeah.
They wanted to like, so then like they were like, oh well, M wants to have like a duel to prove that he's like a better warrior. So then
which like I literally wrote in one of I'll never find it in all of these tabs. And when you have this many tabs, it ceases to be useful. But like the part where like, okay, so like they've, for whatever reason this worked, defending the hill, and they attacked the hill and they've pared them down to like nothing and they've basically won. But they've got, Mazakan, who's like prophesied that the only way he can be killed is by Nalor with a sword Arian, who is standing before you right now. And he's like, you know what? Everybody else fight everybody else, but me and him, mano a mano. I'm like, sir, this is the one thing that you have heard a prophecy about, is that's how they're gonna kill you. What can you possibly gain by suggesting this?
Right.
Like, if it was the other way around, where like they had backed them into a corner, and our hero Nalor was like, we're gonna spare all your men if you agree to fight with me mano a mano. And he's like, I've prophesied to kill me, but if it means saving my people, then I'll agree to this. But it's his idea. He's like, you know what? It's you and me. What?
What's even worse is it's not even like presented as saving his people. It's about saving face. Like he's trying to prove to his people that he's like stronger. So he's going to overcome the prophecy. And that's why he fights. And that's why nobody else is going to help him while they have this duel, because he's got to prove to his warriors that he's a warrior. Because then all of a sudden we hear about,
well, it has very like Attila the Hun vibes with his like,
well, and we also hear in
army.
this instance that like all is not well with like Mazakam's army. Like they don't necessarily want him, that they are like warring tribes within themselves. And it's like, why are we hearing this now? But the worst,
well, they did mention briefly that the reason, like earlier in the book, about that, like, excuse me, about how it would have been when they talked about why there was a truce 7 years ago, and how like that was a bad idea because like they were close to defeating them and they could have just picked them off. But like this was the one guy that could unify the disparate tribes, because like it's a little bit like Bethod in First Law, where like they're all like disparate tribes, but this one strong man was able to unify them. But it's not an easy thing to unify them. So if you don't have this one strong, personality to be the unifying linchpin, if you take him out, then they'll kind of go their separate ways because they can't agree on anything. The only thing they seem to agree on is that he should lead them. Right. And so like it makes sense in that kind of situation that like you could literally defeat them all if you take out the one guy, because he's kind of unifying them. But also like it's told to us that he's a smart leader, and that's why he was able to unify everybody. And it seems like he's really stupid.
Right. Yeah. But then what's the worst part is that then we finally get to this duel, right? We've been hearing about this duel the entire goddamn
Which also the way in which that prophet, I thought it would be like an ancient prophecy, but in fact it was literally just the day they made the sword. They just had a moment of like, we're gonna say a prophecy after we made the sword. Like it was like 10 years ago.
Because like some magic users randomly get the gift of prophecy, like Eleni, oh Jesus Christ, I can't do the name. But like she apparently has like the gift of prophecy too. Like
sometimes
she can see into the future sometimes, but like, and this is like new to her. Anyways, but when they do the duel, what I think is so hilarious is that like we're seeing it from E's perspective, and then like she's looking somewhere else when Nalar has the killing blow against this guy that they've been talking about. So we as the reader don't even see this duel that they have been talking about for 350 pages. All we hear is like, oh, she was busy doing something else, and I missed the killing blow, and all of a sudden Mazakam was on the floor, and you're like, excuse me? Like you spent.
And again, if this was like a better book, that could feel like an intentional, commentary on how like you're not necessarily going to see the moment when something like that happens. And like, again, if Abercrombie written it, it would have been like very intentional commentary. And like that was so many like I wanted to think that Rylan is a commentary, but he's just not written well enough. Like it's more just that it's so absurd that he's like this, that the only way that this could be in some way justified on the part of the author is if it was like a poor attempt at a commentary, but I don't think it was.
Yeah. I think it was just a really lazy way to show character growth, was that like, oh, at the beginning of the book, he's willing to do stupid things for sex, but in the end, he doesn't. He turns down the lady that wants to have sex with him. Like, that's like literally what it seems to be, that like he's growing. And it's like, no, again.
Well, also like the conversation, I guess we're back to Rylan, that Varama is like, so this like sexy magic user who's been described to us many times with how sexy she is.
Yeah.
She's very sus. We think she's up to something. So I want you to like talk to her and like find out what she's up to. And he literally thinks to himself, but she's so hot, I'd rather not think that she's up to something. I hope she's wrong, but I guess I'll have to trust to my own judgment. And I'm like, you fucking moron. What? She just told you to not think with your dick, and you're like, but I like thinking with my dick, so that's what I'm going with.
Well, and then it's like Varama, like the reason why she thinks that this other sorceress is suspect is because she used magic to make herself more beautiful. And
Slash also made like a robot horse.
So it's like
what?
we can't trust women who want to be beautiful. I don't know. Like, it's again, like trying to
I mean, there
do.
was so many mentions of how beautiful she is. I was glad that at least that wasn't just that like it was meant to be like, oh, she's like suspiciously beautiful. That like that's why we're getting so many mentions of how beautiful she is, because you're meant to be like, something's up. She's more beautiful than she should be. So like I think it's still dumb, but at least it wasn't literally him just salivating over somebody that is pretty. It's meant to be like, that's a clue.
But I hate that, like, I could go through the list of female characters and tell you whether or not they are pretty or not, because, like, that's how they're primarily described. Like, it's just like, but you
Well,
know.
also the like the former like big mucky muck leader that dies on the battlefield, and her niece who's like kind of into Rylan.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like she shows up and he immediately, finds her attractive at some meeting where she like comes in, and like, oh my god, he literally, when she comes to see him, he does not recognize her because she had a bath. And he's like, she's really attractive, this lady. I don't know who she is who's standing outside my door. And he's like, who are you? And she's like, you don't recognize me? I'm so and so. And he's like, wow, yeah, she did clean up nice, huh? I thought that she might. And I'm like, you literally don't recognize her when you spent like a battle with her? And like, are you anyway?
Right.
But then she comes in later and she's wearing an armored skirt.
Oh my god!
Does she also have an armored bra? Please tell me she does.
Okay, when I read that line, I was like complaining to my husband as I was reading it. He was on the couch. I was like, this goddamn book. And I was like, mad. And then when I got to the part with the armored skirt, I turned to him and I was like, he wrote an armored skirt. Like, I got so mad at it, I almost threw it across the room. What is the point of an armored? Oh my god. So dumb.
But also she wasn't like, later she would be putting on, like boots. Right now she was wearing nicely strapped sandals, so it showed off her calves under the armored skirt, and that's what he was admiring. And I was like, I think that's one of the times when I underlined it and I was like, fuck you.
Yeah. Like, it's like a Xena warrior moment. And it's like, no, you can't do that in this world right now. Like, that's the thing, is he would just like throw an idea in as it came to him. And but it didn't make any sense for like there was no pattern to figure out what the rules were in this book.
And that said, yeah, I have no idea what the like mode of dress is in this world, other than that Altons wear blue and have blue rings.
And they have like coat things that's also magic armor.
I guess it was very kind of Grisha.
And then like leggings, like they described as leggings, which also takes me out of like a fantasy world, because I just imagine like leggings from Target. Like, I don't.
They're basically wearing a Buddy the Elf outfit.
Yeah. I know what it looks like on the cover too. It's just blue. It's like a blue.
And I mean, the way that the rings worked also felt like an Apple Watch. Like,
yeah.
I was like, your magic system is literally like gadgets and gizmos that you're like, there's a part where she's basically trying to find, she's like searching with her magic site the Hearthstone, and it's not the one she's been using. This is a different one. And she's trying to figure out how to operate it, and she's looking basically for the charging point.
Yeah.
And she's like, she can't find where the like charging portal is on it, basically how to like put the magic into it. And I'm like, you can't find the like USB connector for it, is basically like the vibe. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
There's like one point where she was like, oh, there's this magic knob on
you turn it on and off.
Turn it on and off. And I was like,
and they keep talking about how like, you power on the Hearthstones to use them, but then so you're not detected, you power it down. Like, so your cell phone's GPS doesn't get tracked, you turn it off? Like, is that basically what you're telling me?
Yeah.
And they basically have like a FaceTime call with people via the Hearthstones. That's what Decran does to talk to the queen. He basically FaceTimes her using a Hearthstone.
Like, yeah.
What? And again, if this felt like a conscious choice on the part of the author to basically like, again, be sort of like a fun way to be like, we are surrounded by technology that is kind of borderline what magic used to accomplish in books before we achieved that. So if you purposely wrote a fantasy where you wanted that to be kind of the takeaway, that like they are functionally the same as our gadgets, but it's magic, as like some kind of a commentary on technology, like, but this doesn't feel like that. It just feels like a stupid video game magic system where it basically works like gadgets and tech.
Well, and it just seems like one of those books where magic is just used as like a plot device. There's no like inner workings. Like, there's the way this world works doesn't make any sense. How magic interacts with other people, like we don't even really get to understand like how people exist in this world.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the Altenari core, who are the magic users, and then like the hordes of like faceless armies, I have no idea what they are defending, the villages of people or the cities, or like, I guess there's theater. We know that because Kirkendall quotes it. But like, there's no sense of the world beyond like this particular conflict and conspiracy.
Right. And there's no sense of like a map. Like, I don't understand because so the queen rules over this one city, but then there's also governors that like rule over her, like, because they were like, oh, we'll tell the
Well, because they kind of talked about how basically the different gods created their own little patches of the world the way that they wanted, and
right.
that's why they're different, and then they use the
Like, I
hearthstones to
don't know,
do it.
like I don't know what the queen is in charge of because it seems like all of these cities that they travel to are within like the same realm. And like the queen is like sort of in charge of them, but then they talk about governors. They're like, we're gonna tell the governors about what the queen's doing, and the governors are gonna.
Well, it also seems like the queen is like elected?
Right?
Question mark.
Question mark. Like the governors,
Because like that's part of like Deckard thinking to himself about how like he's not on the side of the baddies or the goodies. He's like kind of on this side of the baddies until such time as he can overthrow the baddies and take charge himself. And then
right.
he gets killed in the book because like that would even be an interesting thing to have throughout, that you have somebody who's not on your side. He's not one of the good guys, but he's not really on the side of the baddies. He has
Right.
no invested interest in them succeeding. He's just like on their side until he can be like, see, they're dumb and bad. Overthrow them. I take power, which is what his plan was. And like that, no, he just gets killed. So I was like, all right, I don't know what the point of that was.
Too. And like, and then like but this was established as like a matriarchal society that there's so he has this like one line where he's like, well, there's only been queens, but like maybe I can be.
Yeah, he's saying the queen doesn't suspect him because it wouldn't have occurred to her that a man would imagine he could rise to power.
And it's like, but so if that really is the world, like I would really have loved to see a matriarchal world, but then if it was a matriarchal world, wouldn't the men behave differently than but they don't. Yeah. You're like, so like, why would he think that, oh, if only queens, I don't know. That's part of the thing that bothered me. It was like again trying to be like,
well, so like
since
we're talking about the sort of like political situation, like let's talk about how stupid in the beginning of the book when Rylan is first chosen by Varama to be like, he's not going to go on the quest to find Kirkendall. He's going to stay back because she picked him to be like her number 2, and she's told him that like they need to infiltrate the auxiliary, the Mage Corps. And you need to go in there and use the fact that you used to date one of them to like infiltrate their stuff because like they refuse to talk to the Altans, the Altenari Corps. So like you go over there and you see what you can find out, and like how bullshit that plan was and how poorly thought out it was, and how on the one hand like this, it would be a super difficult secret mission to like, because if they really are keeping this hush hush and refuse to share any of their secrets, you'd have to be super clever to infiltrate that. Mm-hmm. So like, that's a bad plan. But also it's shockingly easy because like this super secret stuff, they just like tell him immediately what's going on. Like they're not at all suspicious that he showed up asking questions. They're like, oh, let me tell you how all of this works. Like, surprisingly, this plan worked way too well for like something that, are you sure this was a secrets? Like, I think maybe you're a little bit too paranoid and it's not secrets because they seem fine with sharing.
And then it seems like everybody they meet on the road like knows about the Hearthstones. Like these are supposed to be like super secret things that nobody knows about. Like the people, like the squires who have been training in this like, this special army didn't know about it, but then like everybody else does. Like it doesn't make it. And then
part 2 of their plan where they take Polyjuice Potion and re-infiltrate them just so they can steal some stuff, and then immediately gather everybody who's on their side in the city and yeet on out of there in like a massive army. And I'm like, how did you just organize everybody leaving after your stupid Polyjuice plan? Like this happened in like 2 days.
And this is what the book does, is Ryland's like, oh, well, we just know that so-and-so is brilliant, and that's how she figured it out. Like we're just like told that people are brilliant and good at things, and that's why things continually to work out for people. So there's no like stakes, there's no suspense, because it's just like things just work. Like the first time Eleni like gets the Eleni gets the Hearthstone, she's like, I don't know how to use this. I've never heard of this before. And he's like, well, just try. And then like she just does it. Like she just can do.
And now she's in charge of all magic on their quest.
And then she just always does exactly what she needs to do, even though she's never trained this way before.
The only thing people seem in this book to come up short on is healing. They can do anything, but then can you heal them? No, it takes hundreds of years to learn healing arts. I can't. And I'm like, okay, that's unlikely and inconvenient.
And it's just like, but then no one's trained in it. Like, what are you trained to? It's like you're this magic like army, then what are you actually trying to do if you can't like do I don't know. And then
Well,
like
also, so like Varama being brilliant, yeah, like it's said over and over how brilliant she is. But she doesn't do or say anything brilliant. She does very stupid, foolhardy, reckless things, and I'm like, where? But there was literally a part towards the end, right, when again, I can't find it even with my tabs, but I did mark it and write on it, where more in the ending bit when there's like a dead squire that they find, and she sends Ryland to go check out the body because she doesn't have time to check herself. So then he goes to look at the body and to see what he can figure out about like how he died and like where he was. And so he's like, I bet she could get more info than I could out of this, but I got what I could. And so then they like, Vulcan mind meld so that she can see what he saw anyway. And then she's like, okay, your conclusions were pretty good, but you actually missed 50 billion things. And he's like what? And she's like, well, the particular dust on the boot of his shoe was actually from this part of the world. I was like, okay, I know you want her to be Sherlock real bad, but she's not fucking Sherlock. This is stupid.
it doesn't like do anything to
And
the
like, was it important to know like any of that? I was like, no.
And again, maybe it happens in like the next books, but it just again, it was just like all this description with no actual like care. Like, I feel like a lot of us like we figure out characters through their actions and through their feelings, but all of this we're just constantly told what characters do, what they think, what they're thinking, but and like we get to know characters by how other people think about them.
And I mean, this is the
But
type
there's
of story
no
where,
real
like, that
theme.
wouldn't be my favorite thing, but it was clear that the author was really, really interested in his own world building, and so you were getting a deep dive into how the magic works, how the politics works, and the characters don't really feel like characters because he's really focused on like explaining all the point. But the magic makes no kind of sense. So it's not like and then that can work if like the main focus here is the characters. So we're really getting to know the characters, and the magic is kind of like incidental to that. But there's like everything in the book is incidental to everything else. So I'm like, what is your focus? Like, what am I meant to be getting out of this?
Yeah, there was no like personality or like thread that I could connect to because it's like I can read bad writing. Like I read like that this I don't know this was like recent vampire book that was published and it was really terribly written, but like the characters were just kind of fun. So you just hooked onto that and then whatever followed the plot through. But
Well,
this
presumably at least the jokes are funny. Kirkendall's jokes are not funny.
is not funny and like yeah, there's no like personality to it. They're just like we're told that they have these like fun personalities, but the only one I liked was that like lizard creature that was like guarding Kalandra's land, Ortok, and he kind of like came off as Drax the Destroyer from like Guardians of the Galaxy, like this big brutish, like very literal. But again, like he feels like a kind of character we've seen before, and I was like, oh, he's funny. I
And he
like
was mainly comic relief.
and he was mainly comic relief, and it was supposed to be like, don't judge a book by its cover, kind of like moral lesson in there, like because he's trying to touch on these themes, like, you think that like you can trust your government, but really there's a huge conspiracy.
So you
Really
can't have women in charge because it's bad news.
and that's like really these people are your enemy, but they're also just people. Like, there's we don't keep our words. So like they're trying to like touch on these things, but then it doesn't really carry through to like all of the plot points. So you're like, but so it's like with like the noir people that are they're warring tribes that they're trying to fight. We're sort of told that they're just people who are trying to get back land and that there's a complicated history that we don't know yet. But then when we meet them, they're not. They're like stupid and they're like homophobic. And
Oh my god, the part where like Ryland faces off with one and he yells at him something about him being like a fairy boy fucker or something. And I was like, so the only way you could make the enemy worse than Ryland, because Ryland is the worst, is to have him say the most like it's not only that it's like on the nose on its like offensiveness, it's like it's like, why would this character suddenly say that other than for you to be like, see, the baddies are homophobic and sexist, isn't that bad? And I'm like,
and it's like, but if you were trying to show that like actually the baddies are complicated and this is actually really complicated, why would you make them this dumb?
Ryland's thoughts about the insult is like, why would they even think that that's an insult? Like, they're such like primitive people. And I'm like, sir, you are not one to talk. Don't even.
And so like, and like, you can tell that like this author was trying with like inclusion because the guy that gets killed at the beginning is gay. Like he has this offhand mention that he has a husband.
We literally buried our gays in like the first
first.
chapter.
And like he has a husband, and so it's supposed to be like it feels like look what I'm doing, wink, wink.
And it's a queen in charge.
There's a queen in charge, but like none of that actually like shifts how the world works. Like none of the main characters are.
All it does is has the baddies be like, we hate queers and women, and you're the good guys. Well, we have queers and women, and we feel no kind of way about that. Therefore, we are the goodies. But I mean, even so, like, I mean, I think you're meant to feel like a kind of like aha wow when, you know, dead hero, Nalor or whatever, is actually not dead and they find him and his sword. And the thing is, like, it's not even a situation where, like, I mean, in theory, like, the more time you have to develop and establish that somebody is dead, has been dead, everyone knows they're dead, they've been dead a long time. Like, this is just like not a thing you expect to see. It's a part of the myth of this people. And then to find out they're alive should be like, whoa. And like, I mean, I guess you could say the book hadn't spent long enough establishing that, but I don't even think that's true because like I've read books where in the very first chapter you set up that a thing exists or doesn't exist, and the end of that chapter you find out that it does or doesn't, like which is a big surprise. And I am surprised, even though I had only one chapter to acclimate to that. Like even in A Song of Ice and Fire, like in the prologue for Clash of Kings, it's like a short story unto itself that you could read as a standalone because like it presents you entirely different characters, an entirely different situation from what you saw in the previous books, and is like explaining to you new magic use, new faith, like a new situation. And by the end of the prologue, there is like a massive like subversion surprise. And by the end of that prologue, I am like on tenterhooks and like, oh no, oh my god, that really happened, and like in a prologue. So like the fact that what's his name coming back does not feel shocking, surprising, or like a wow moment is not because we didn't spend long enough believing he was dead. It's just because it's badly written.
Yeah, like I didn't feel anything. Like I was trying because you had warned me that you didn't like it, and I was like, I'm gonna go in with an open mind because sometimes like I enjoy things.
This is exactly what this book is like.
Yeah. Like sometimes I enjoy like bad things. Like I liked Serpent and Dove like just fine. Like I like, you know, even though I can acknowledge the bad parts of it, I
would rather read Serpent and Dove than For the Killing of
Yes, I was thinking that the whole time. And so I was like, maybe, you know, but there was no feeling, there was no personality. Like there was nothing.
There was also no point.
Yeah. Like I was like, you know, for the first 100 pages, we're talking about this missing sword, and it's supposed to be building suspense to when we get this reveal that this guy is actually alive, and the missing sword is supposed to be the clue to that. But like, there is no. He just keeps telling it us over and over again. It just feels like a very clinical, like you said, like a clinical description of a video game. It doesn't feel like there's any feeling or personality to any of it.
Also, I often watch, but recently I have dipped back or dive. I have been binging once again videos unpacking why Rise of Skywalker is bullshit. So like it's been on the brain as it always is, but more particularly right now. And there's like a lot of fantastic videos that address different aspects of it. But one of the recurring sort of themes that people like to address is, you know, why does this plot feel empty? Like, why does this not work? And like, for those who say that, you know, it doesn't matter because it's like space wizards or whatever, and they're like, fine, okay, say you don't care at all about the lore of this world. Say it doesn't have to match up with previous lore and you can change it. That's all well and good. The reason it doesn't work is because these characters, there's no point to anything they're doing. There's no logic to anything they're doing. The things that they are doing are not dictated by what needs there would be or what the character would choose to do. They're by what the plot needs to happen next. So they happen to do the thing. They happen to find the thing. And none of it is like affecting anything. None of it is driven by their want. None of it is driven by their agency. And so like, that's exactly what reading this book is like. I was like, okay, so like, Kirkendall comes back just because like he comes back all the time when the anniversary of this guy's death, and then like accidentally finds out that like there might be a bad thing happening. So he has to leave because like they're in trouble, and what's her name, I guess, is going with him because they have to leave. And after that, they're just kind of like, so where to now? I don't know. We'll try going there. And then like they find another thing and they're like, I don't know. I guess we'll try going here. Like there's no quest that they're driving towards. There's nothing they're trying to accomplish. And same thing with like Rylan, where he's like, well, this lady told me to investigate that and I did. And now we've left the city and fleeing as well. And I guess we're being attacked. And I guess, and the coincidence of this big army that's been amassing it is finally attacking basically the day that they woke up the hero from 7 years ago. Like that all happened at the same time. Like how convenient.
Well, and like that's the other thing is they're supposed to be traveling these like large distances, but they're supposed to be traveling these large distances, but there's no concept of time. Like there's no concept of the passing of time. They have the food that they need. They have all of the needs met. There's no stakes. They're not like occasionally they mention that they're a little bit uncomfortable, but like everything seems to happen within a week. But it doesn't really make sense. It's like all of like you hear that this is supposed to be a hard.
Where to? Let me grab the script and check.
There's no telling what's driving these people. Like there's this idea that like they all want to be heroes in some way and that they all have some kind of loyalty.
Well, also, I mean, they make a big deal about that Kirkconnell has been absent, and the only time he comes, like, and then none of them even knew that he comes back once a year to like have a drink over his dead best friend's grave. But like, what is he doing the rest of the time?
Yeah.
And like, if he hadn't stumbled on this conspiracy and had to flee for his life with Ellen, like, so what would he be up to? And like, if he thinks that things have gone to shit, like, he's just been mumbling around, like,
yeah,
that's what.
Well, and again, it's like, are these people loyal to their queen? Are they religious? Like Rylan, who was supposed to be like loyal to his army, really easy is like, oh, the queen's bad? Okay, I guess I'll join you to take her down. And it's like, but why would you do that? Like as a soldier, as somebody who you said is loyal, you don't even stop and pause for a minute.
It is not at all clear. Like there's some throwaway line about her being paranoid, but like if she's the queen, why would she need to hide that she's decided Hearthstones are important and that we need to divert government resources to studying them? Like if that's what the queen has decided to do, then why is that a secret?
Well, and they said that then you get into like, so then like the world building, like the actual world building makes no sense. Because again, it's like this idea that like realms are on top of each other, but they're also next to each other. And you have to travel through realms that are shifting, like literally moving, like the staircases in Harry Potter. Like, and then like if you fall, you could end up in a void that exists nowhere. So,
because like I guess that's where it seemed that explanation about the gods that they worship, about how they used Hearthstones to each like make their own little paradise, how they wanted the world to be.
The gods made stable lands within these shifting ones, and that the Hearthstones help this land stability. So the queen is collecting these Hearthstones because the barriers, like the literal barriers between lands, are like melting away. So she's trying to stay. So then that sounds like a good thing. So it sounds like the queen, if she's trying to stabilize.
Then you find out that that's why they're breaking down, because she took them all.
Right. But then they later say that that's not. So I got confused as to like which was actually true. Like, because then she's talking about how she's collecting them to stabilize the land in order for the goddess to return. It's like,
well, and so the person that knows anything about this is Calandria. And she's, you know, off somewhere pursuing more knowledge about this. And she left behind a literal like hologram of herself that has like memory capacity for like, it like downloaded her memory for who she was at the moment she did it.
Exactly like Superman's. Like Superman's like, remember Superman and her like, or is it Supergirl? Like the TV, I don't know. But like Superman.
But I mean, it's like a tech thing. Like it doesn't seem like magic.
Right. Because it's like it happens in Supergirl where like her like little realm that she goes to, like she has this like image of her mom that she can ask questions to. That's like it's a memory, so she can't ask her like things that she doesn't know. Anyways, it's like the same thing that happens there. But again, it's like they found this realm by like dropping through like, so it's like the world is built like this, but also like that. And it doesn't make sense how they work. And like the characters don't really know, but then always happen to get where they need to go.
I mean, like the only thing that kind of makes, or like is how I feel like it is that like, you know, the gods made their like solid lands, like these are their lands, and then the shiftingness between is kind of like the ocean between continents, you know, it's like that wibbly wobbly stuff that's in between. And so then in order to like swim through the wibbly wobbly stuff that is like the shifting lands, that's why that's like wibbly wobbly.
Yeah. But it's not really clear how the characters know what direction they're going, but they always happen to get where they need to be when they need to get there. And like that's one of the things that Eleni uses like the Hearthstones for, is to like build a road within these shifting lands, even though she's never traveled there before. She has no idea where she's going. She doesn't know like what she's doing. She just magically figures it out when she needs to. And then like the two heroes are like, nice job, little girl.
And again, like even the description of like the mechanics of what they're doing is entirely unclear. And it's also really hard to discern like what is only possible through a Hearthstone, or is this just something that the Hearthstone made easier but is already within like an ability that somebody could have. It would just take a lot out of them. Because at first it seemed like when we were first introduced to Hearthstones, it seemed like they were just kind of like amplifiers that they could like make you stronger, make you feel better, make you a little more adept at something. But then it seemed like other things were only possible through the special powers bestowed upon you through the use of a Hearthstone, or if you find the little hole where you plug it in with your power. But then also when like two people would connect to a Hearthstone, then they would be like psychically trapped inside of it. And there's a part where she kills somebody by doing that, where she's like, I'm not going to fight her. I'm just going to like back out of the Hearthstone while they're in it. And then they're going to be trapped in it somehow and then cut off from their body and then be dead. And I'm like, what the fuck is a Hearthstone?
Well, and it seems like that only certain people can use Hearthstones, but then no, that's not true either, because anybody can use a Hearthstone to amplify any of their powers, but then like Kirkendall doesn't use a Hearthstone. So it's like, and then it's like one of those things where the mage army or the army alterni or whatever they are, they use magic, but then like it would be interesting if it's this idea where like magic has kind of lost its importance in this land, and so like these people who have some magical ability haven't been trained in it because like magic is less important. But we know that the queen likes magic and has created a special mage force to study magic,
even though they already have the Altenori, which are like institutionalized mages,
right? So then it's like, what is the difference between these two? Why does one learn more magic than the other? Why don't they know more magic?
And it's like a big deal that like the auxiliary mage corps has been like stealing people away from the Altenori. And like that's like that part of their infiltration plan, is that Ryland's supposed to pretend like he's considering breaking away from the Altenori so that he can join the auxiliary mage corps. But you're like, but the queen is in charge of both of them. Like the queen is in charge of everything. So like, why
just like make these rules that both of them have to like study this thing? Like again, like if the queen had said we're going to figure out how to use this, then
also it seems like there's a lot of people, like more people numbers wise, that are in the mage corps. And if this is the whole thing of like, because they make it sound like we weren't really supposed to know that she made the truce in order to get a bunch of Hearthstones because like that's shady. So that's the thing where like, okay, I have all these Hearthstones, but like they can't know it because it's bad for PR, because that's kind of why I ended the war, is to get them. So I can only have a few people know about this. But why is the mage corps huge? There's like hundreds of people studying them, but this like small group of your highest elitist trained mages, the Altenori, they're not allowed to know about this. And like it seems like everyone else does. So like if it was like a different thing, right, where like she had decided to have of the Altenori a super elite, like a new level for them to reach, where there's like only a handful, and those are like her direct reports, and then that would be the elite people she trusts with studying them, and then they were going to try to like rise in the ranks to infiltrate that. But no, there's like this massive bunch of people who all know about this, and it's so easy to infiltrate them because the people guarding it, he's like, I want to go have a drink. Oh, you're gonna like sign out for me? Great, I'm gonna go with my like that's who's guarding the big mega government secret of the Hearthstones, is some guy who's like, my shift is almost over, but like I wanted to watch the game. And you're like, I will take over and therefore infiltrate. Like, really?
Like everybody's supposed to be an idiot besides like our core 5 people, but it's like,
I mean, compared to them, I guess Varama is basically Sherlock Holmes, because everyone else is a complete nincompoop. But I mean,
it's like one of those things where there are no stakes in that moment. Like like you never worry that they're not going to win, and like people die, but there's no like.
I mean, I was frankly worried they're gonna win because I would like Ryland to die.
Yes,
and thank you.
And like the talking dragons were cool, but again, it doesn't feel like. It just feels like something else that he brought in that he thought would be cool.
Well, and again, like we talked about, where it seems like the dragon wouldn't just let anybody ride her. And the fact that she is like, Rylan is like the successor to her former like sister, is how she refers to like her land sister or whatever, earth sister, because she dies tragically in battle.
It does feel
like, I was like, why him? Like, he's literally the worst. Could you not have picked literally anyone else?
Well, and it's like supposed to be like, you know, that like hippogriff where like in Harry Potter you're supposed to like bow to the hippogriff and be very polite to it. That's exactly what happens. Like he's polite to the dragon and like is nice to it. So the dragon's like, "Oh, you must be a good
But the
human."
hippogriff can't talk, whereas the dragon is like his sentient, has speech, can explain what she's been seeing. Is like, oh, I did a survey of the land and I saw the army and they're over here. So like the fact that it like a bestial animal that can't talk is like going off of like physical cues, like, oh, you're submitting to me, therefore this is like, but something that can talk and reason and is like, I guess you can be my friend. What like there's a part where like he convinces her that, you know, instead of taking vengeance now, we should help the army, help the living. She's like, that's actually some good logic right there. I'm gonna go with that. And I'm like, you can't have it both ways.
Well, especially because it's established at the end that like her people, I guess, like her, I don't know if it's like a
Her
race.
kind.
They're like sentient and they have lands. So like I don't know. Anyways, so her kind is fighting with the big bads, right? So like it's not really clear. Like she was so loyal to this human.
Well, then they're all very confident that her kind will never fight with the bad guys because the bad guys did like steal their land.
Right. But like then
But I guess they are fine with it now. So
yeah, for some reason. It was just like the whole book. I was like, okay, okay, and okay. Like it just nothing.
like, huh? But why?
And then at the end, like even
Well,
the
okay, so the end when Mazakan's like son or grandson has like, oh, you did exactly what I wanted and defeated my granddaddy, and now I'm in charge. But he's not in person there. He used an elaborate and presumably difficult form of magic to like mentally transport himself into like a bunch of blood that took his shape so he could talk at our heroes, just so he could say, ha 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 ha, it doesn't matter that you defeated him because I actually wanted you to defeat him, and now be warned, I will be killing you shortly. And I'm like, what possible benefit is it to this guy who's like, okay, great, they did what you wanted and they fell perfectly into your trap. So baiting them right now, like, you got, I don't understand. Other than for our heroes to find this out, there is no possible benefit to this character showing up through blood magic to be like, ha 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 ha, you did exactly what I wanted.
Especially because after that reveal, Alani is like, let's go to my home and see my dad.
Well, also, like, I did underline this because, like, so they describe at length, you know, the blood is like forming and forming, and then it forms into like a very specific shape. It's not vaguely human. Like, they can tell he's wearing leather armor. That's how specific this blood shape is. And then after he's done being like, haha, you fell into my plan. I will be vanquishing you shortly. Bye-bye. So after he does that, Eleni is like, that was blood sorcery. And I was like, no shit. I think I figured that out for myself. Thank you.
Like another form of magic in this world. Because everybody just seems to have it, I guess. Because we don't really meet anybody who can't do magic. Except for like, I don't know. Do we meet any like normal people? Because I don't even think we meet any normal.
I mean, there's like vaguely the villagers that must flee that we're defending.
Right.
So, and then, I mean, Kirkconnell and Nalor basically don't do any magic. They make Eleni do all of it. So, for all intents and purposes, they're not magic users.
Well, like, so Kirkconnell uses like battle magic where like he can confuse his opponents, because that's how like Eleni was originally trained, that she has these like necklaces that it's like also amplifiers, and like while she's in battle she can use one to be like, you're afraid, you're confused. Like she can use,
I definitely forgot about her like little amplifier necklace, because that doesn't come into it again ever.
That's how they can, like, that's what they're trained to do, is that like in battle they can like use.
But also, like, if those little like physical thingies that she's wearing are amplifiers, what are they if they're not hearthstones? Like, what is this thing that you were using before?
They're described as theater masks. So she wears like a necklace of like these little masks that are in the where they have. So it's like, again, her dad's in the theater. Like,
I hate this book so much.
So are those hearthstones? Like, so yeah, it's again like one of those things where, so I think Kirkconnell does that thing too, where he can like do that kind of stuff in battle, but it's not clear how and like why he can't do other forms of magic. But he's there.
to flip open to a random page to
Oh my
see.
gosh, somebody came in the door. It's scary.
I just decided to flip to a random page to see like what I tabbed because I tabbed so many things. And like the very first, because like I didn't tab in the beginning, I hadn't decided yet that that was the thing I was doing, and I was like, forget this is bad. I'm tabbing everything, and like just the first thing is an error where it says, "And there'll be no need to tolerate anyone like you." You mean there'll be, not they'll be? Like, do you know how English works? And then like this was not grammatically incorrect, but it's stupid that like red and white. Kirkendall suggested he was right. Yes. Like you don't have to say he was right and yes, like
Yeah.
yes conveys that he was right. Like why?
But the dialogue does not feel natural. It feels like I am using dialogue to tell you how this world works. I am telling you a story about the past. And then, yeah, so the dialogue is just like very kind of clunky.
Yeah, there's like so many times when they say stuff that I'm like, there is no possible reason for this character to be saying this other than for them to be communicating this information to the reader. And that information may even be character information, not world information. Like you wanted me to know that this character feels a kind of way about this. So even though it makes no sense for them to bring up that they feel this way about this thing that we weren't talking about, they've decided to talk about it right now so that you know that this is how they feel about it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that, that's the like next page that I tabbed was Kirkendall randomly in the beginning asking Elena if she's a praying person and that if so she should like pray, and she's like, what, are you not? He's like, no, prayers are useless, like we don't believe in the gods. And I'm like, if you think they're useless and you don't believe in it, why on earth would it occur to you to say you should pray right now? I mean, I think it's stupid, and it's not like they were already talking about faith. She just out of the clear blue, he's like, are you a praying person? Then you should pray. Do you pray? Do you believe it? No, I think it's stupid. It's like, why did you bring that up? Like, if you think it's stupid, you just wouldn't bring it up.
Well, and it's like she's like discussed as pious, like, and like she like does pious things, but then like that's not even something that stays consistent throughout the whole book. Like then like she doesn't even like, so again, like her piety, it's not clear why it's a thing, and but like also all it feels like her piety is again just like a measure of Kirkendall's like impiety. So it's like, so again, like she doesn't even have anything in her character that stays consistent that's driving her character. Because if she was like super religious, it would make sense. Like it would give her some kind of drive, but that's like not even consistent because it doesn't get mentioned more than that. And then in the end, when you find out more about the goddesses, like it's supposed to be this like big reveal about how these they're not actually gods, they're just like humans who found these rocks, who created the world, so they're not actually gods. Like,
But they're in this sort of like Eden like garden where there's berries and nuts.
so it's like, but wouldn't that blow your mind if you're like a pious person and then all of a sudden you found out that it was actually people who found hearthstones that created the world? I don't know where these people came from, that they
That's the only thing that she does think to herself, that someone then must have created them.
right. So
And
but then
like,
like
that's
blow your entire world view. Like you're talking about this like the way that you thought the world worked, but again, it doesn't phase, like nothing phases any of the characters.
or at least,
Like,
I mean, it phases them if it's like a, oh no, great danger approaches. Like, we must do magic things again. Okay, but so no, another thing that like there are so many things that like, okay, so if you say this is how the magic works, I guess this is how the magic works. So like I don't think it makes any sense, but like you can't say that's not how a thing works because it doesn't exist. But there's so many things, like we said, like the battle strategy, it makes no kind of sense, and that is how a thing works. So like no. And there's a part where like it's specifically like if you just hadn't described this, like, and just like glossed over it, it wouldn't have mattered. But Rylan is on the back of the dragon thingy, and then he like jumps off of it from like I guess a bit of a height. And then like if they had just said that, I'd be like, okay, we're moving on. No, it specifically tells us that he braces himself on his palms and then rolls to break the momentum of the fall. And I'm like, so you broke your wrists? Like if you fall from a high height and brace your fall with your palms, which is what it says, you will have broken your wrists. That is the worst thing you could possibly do. And if anyone is reading this and going, if I fall from a height, I read in a book, you should catch yourself. That is the opposite of what you should do. But it makes a point of telling us that he does that. And I'm like, why are you even making a big deal of explaining specifically that he does this when it's the worst thing you could do?
well, like but the way that it's written also is that he then like picks up the threads of his Witcher sense and then tries to control the wind so that it slows down his fall, and I was like, how can your magic do that? Like, so now you can control the wind, and if you can control the wind, why can't you just fly? Does that mean
Because
you
he
can fly?
knows the name of the wind.
Yeah. So it's like, so again, it's just like he writes in magic moments, like when it sort like he's like, oh, this would be cool if my magic could do this. Like
Like,
it
I can
always,
literally like, it's, like, one of those things where it becomes such a it's not even so there's, like, a lot of times when, like, you establish rules for magic, but then you bring in new things, and you're like, "But now the magic can also do this," and people are like, "Oh, okay, well, there's no stakes if the magic will always, like, do a ex machina save them." But this is the part where, like, I have no idea what the rules are. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to know that it could do that. Like, I can't even be like, "Oh, it couldn't do that before, but now it does this." I'm like, I have no idea how any of this is supposed to work.
right. And there's like sometimes there's like threads, like when they're in their Witcher sense, there's this idea that you can see a bunch of magical threads and then like manipulate those threads. But even that's not consistent to then how the magic looks when you're, because you can also use magic when you're not in your Witcher sense. It's like, again, it just seems like he wrote this and it was just like, oh, this would be cool if this happened. This would be cool if this happened. But none of it has like a sense of forward momentum that like I don't know what we're
Well, also, like, I mean, I've often said this about, like, big magic books where, like, okay, that's why I tend to prefer low magic because, like, the butterfly effect of any magic in your world, like, the way that people react to that, use it, how they organize themselves, how it would change the rules of everything because the
mm,
way that people operate in a world where that's possible is gonna be different entirely.
yeah.
So, like, even a little bit of magic, like, I often feel like, okay, but if they have this magic, like, they wouldn't still have X, Y, and Z institutions, they wouldn't still behave X, Y, and
Mm,
Z ways, it doesn't make any sense anymore. But there's, like, such bonkers levels of magic all the time that I'm
yeah,
like, I don't the butterfly effect, what? Like, there's
yeah.
just what?
And like if magic just exists randomly, if people are gifted it, then
I mean,
all these,
honestly, this entire like, the shifting lands is a metaphor for this entire book because, like, everything is shifting and wibbly wobbly all the time. I have no idea where we are or what we're doing.
yeah. And so it's like kind of sold as this like great world building, but nope. Like world building what? I don't know.
Well, so, okay, I was thinking about this. This is not a new series. Like, this didn't just come out. So
No.
then I'm like, if they're having trouble moving it, I'm not surprised.
So the publisher sent it when the third one came out. The third one came out in August, and they sent us like the full trilogy in like September or October, right? And I think it's because we would review other fantasy things on our pages, and so I think they thought we would like it.
Also, like, this cover doesn't look too good, like, when you just see, like, a little thumbnail image, but up close, it is truly atrocious.
Like their faces are, it's unfortunate.
It's really bad. And
Yeah.
it's also the way that the background is, like, very indistinct, like, you can't tell where they are or
Yeah.
what this world looks like. It will not become clearer if you read the book. Like, this is exactly what it's like reading this book, like, some figures that are on a vaguely magical plane of existing where magic things are happening to them.
And it's like then like the towns that we do come across, because it's like for most of it we're on this quest with everybody. I don't think we watched a video. Just
Yeah, no.
like
What they should sell is my annotated version.
but when we see the cities, they're like vaguely medieval. Like they have outer rings and things like that, like vaguely. But then
Well, so we know that the what battle strategy there is, which is, not much, they refer to, like, catapults and
and and
swords
and
and,
siege
like,
machines
that.
and things like that. So it's like vaguely medieval, like some fantasy is. But then at the same time, when he was describing the city at the very beginning, he talks about there being suburbs, and I was like, "Excuse me, sir."
I mean, they basically wear, like, Apple rings instead of Apple watches, so yep. Which, like, a little the fact that, like, that's the words that he's using to describe the magical things, that you turn them on and off, or that you're charging things, I'm like,
Do you
you
want?
could basically convey the same thing if it was a way to, like, activate something magical. Like, that's a thing. Like, there is definitely, like, magical objects that you need to do a thing to for them to, like, be functioning in their magical way and that you can get them to stop. But, like, to literally talk about turning it on and off, I'm like, do you want us to think that these are gadgets?
Yeah. Well, and it's like if people didn't have electricity in these days, like why would they even think about turning things off and on? Like you wouldn't have that kind of framework
Vernacular, yeah.
understanding how magic works if you don't have things that actually do that. So like that's also what doesn't make sense is that it feels like it's trying to be like vaguely medieval the way fantasy is, like because they don't have running water and stuff like that. So
They ride on horseback everywhere and have
right,
swords. They don't have guns. It's not even flintlock fantasy.
right. So then it's like so like the magic doesn't even seem to do anything for the world. And again, like there's like one big city, but then they talk about realms, but there's not really realms or even villages. They don't meet villages in between these bigger cities. Don't know what to say. I feel bad. I'm sure he worked very hard on it.
I mean, also we haven't mentioned that despite all of the many, many, many like objective errors, i.e., that's not what that word means, that's not correct grammar, which like that is not a point of debate, that's not a matter of taste.
Right.
He's an editor, is
Yeah.
his job. So
and I'm wondering
funny.
if he's like because it says that he does an imprint, and so I'm wondering if he's an editor for like an imprint of St. Martin's Press, and maybe that's why.
But it said he's also the editor of a sword and sorcery magazine, I think. Yeah, it says he edits the sword and sorcery magazine Tales from the Magician's Skull and serves as executive editor of the Perilous Worlds book imprint.
I just opened up to one of my tabs and it says, Elle and I had never been interested in majory as martial training, despite her natural affinity. But then, like, that's all she does. So it's like
literally all she does. Also, then what is she interested in instead?
Yeah, like what
in this page, I just like marked the paragraph and wrote vomit. I think it's a Rylan chapter.
But it's like there's no sense of her having a character before she met Kirk.
This was a part where like this was both Rylan being sexist and also a weird inclusion of like racism from the author where it was not meant to be like racist, but the fact that he's describing it this way is like, why are you describing this? It's because he's surprised to learn that Denalia, that chick who wears the armored skirt, is the niece of the magic user Altenerai who just died. There was a world of difference between Denalia's peaches and cream complexion, just visible beneath a layer of grime, and Aradel's nut brown, but there had been frequent intermingling between denizens of the realms for generations. Rylan was less puzzled by the declaration of familial connection than he was further saddened. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. So, like, he's not, this paragraph is telling us that he's actually not surprised that somebody who's pale was a relative of somebody that was brown. So he wouldn't actually be thinking this, but the author is having him note it in order to not be surprised by it.
Yeah.
So that we can know that one was white and one was dark. But it was just like such a weird, like there was a world of difference between her peaches and cream and the nut brown. But he's not surprised by this, so he's not actually thinking about this at all. He's just sad. It says he's not surprised. He's sad to learn that she was actually her niece, and that's sad because that's her relative now. But you included this whole paragraph about intermingling of the denizens of the. I'm like,
yeah.
That's why I just marked the paragraph with vomit.
Again, it's like no sense of like where people come from. Like skin tones come from specific places because of environmental things. And then like now because people, well,
especially because like, but also this Altenerai who just died, her aunt, like I would imagine this like sort of capital city where the Altenerai train would be pretty cosmopolitan. Right. So like you would have a lot of people mixing from all over coming to be part of the auxiliary corps or the Altenerai. So like it's literally there. Like Rylan isn't even surprised. The author is the one that's like, it's weird that they're different colors, but he's not surprised because he's not racist and because we have lots of intermingling. And I'm like,
right. And it's like I was reading a Goodreads review because I wanted to see what other people thought about it. And that was what one person said, that there's like 2 like LGBTQ characters and then they both die. And then there's like 2 people of color who are described and there could be more people of color, but the 2 that are described.
Well, and also the enemy is coded as like hordes of probably
people
of color.
Like that's what I also had a problem with too. Like first of all, like people's skin tones, it's not like really clear like where they all fall, unless the women are described as being pale and beautiful, because like we always
Which
get
all the ones that are described as beautiful are described as being pale.
as being pale, right? So then you do get the description of like the bad tribes, and they are coded as like almost like a native peoples, like a almost like a Native American kind of feel, and you're like, this does not feel good. Like this does not, and I don't even know if it's like on purpose, like if he's like coding it on purpose, but again, like we don't get a lot of it. Like we don't get a lot of description in that sense. So, but there were like some parts where I was like, is he doing that? Is he? Because I don't really like the way that he's describing these like savage lands. I don't know.
I randomly found the page where I marked him falling on his palms, and I underlined it and wrote, "That's a terrible idea. You just broke your wrists." So it's a lot of fun reading this book, constantly going, "Why?"
Yeah. Mhm. And like you could skip whole paragraphs because it was just like a list of questions the characters were asking themselves, and I was like, I hate this. I was like, I don't even notice if I've like, I don't even know if I've seen this in other books this way, but it's like instead of like internal feelings and dialogue, yes, exactly. Instead of internal feelings and dialogue, they'll just like ask themselves a series of questions. Am I supposed to be doing this? What does this actually mean? And it's like again supposed to be like kind of creating, I don't know, some kind of suspense for the reader, but it's just like a series of questions. It's like a boring way to introduce that.
It's like how it's not just how what not to do inclusion. It's how not what to write. Like all of it. Like poor prose, poor sentence structure, poor grammar, poor world building, poor magic building, poor character development, poor. It's also narratively like it's not paced in a way that's like, don't know what's happening, but like I'm kind of into it because like, wow, nope, it's paced terribly. Like there's not really like, I mean, there's not a 3-act structure. Like it's like there is no like arc to this. It's just like stuff happening, like a video game.
Yeah.
Where there's like, here's like this little quest, and then we kind of defeat, like when they defeat that animal, it's just Kirkconnell and Illinois when they first go to that like that fortress, and they beat the like well, first they beat the guard soldiers, and she's like, oh no, one of them should have been taken prisoner, all of them are dead, and then like they move on.
Yeah.
And they big beastie together because they defeat that boss, and then oh, we had to reveal that this character is actually alive, you found a thing, and then we move on to the next part of the quest where we encounter the guy and the guy that they were going to see, but he's actually gone crazy because of the Hearthstones. So then they acquire that Hearthstone, and she learns how to like charge it like a literal device, and like then you move on. It's all just like little like quests in a video game.
I wonder if he's like a Dungeons and Dragons person or something, like because it could be that too,
or just plays a lot of video games.
Yeah, because we're just like going on these like quests, and there's no like really like we know that there's like a bigger conspiracy, we know there's a bigger war, but the stakes don't feel very real. And I think
as much as I hate Rylan, at the very least, his plotline is like, we're trying to find out a thing, we found out the thing, and now we're acting on that knowledge. So it's like a little bit more driven by intentional purpose, but like not much more.
Yeah. And again, like not really even like character growth. And then maybe it was that I just like had read Abercrombie and was like so blown away by the way that he creates such voices for his different point of views, and how like it really is a complex look at the way that this world works. And you do,
it was in fairness easy to tell Rylan and Illinois apart because one is a piece of shit and the other one is a non-entity. So
well, and it's like in Abercrombie, the magic, like you don't like, nobody really has it, and it's unclear like how it works, but that works within like the realm that he's created. Like everything feels
also there's very few magic users. There's like, it's not like everyone is walking around doing wild magic. They're like, what is that? Dunno. Like, it's like very rarely mentioned. And so it seems like a mysterious thing that like, it being mysterious does not mean the rest of the plot makes no sense.
Right, exactly. And it works with like the way that
like it's mysterious the way that like string theory is mysterious to us now. Like it doesn't affect my life, but like, that's wild.
And it's not used as like a Deus Machina. Like it's not used as like an out all of the time. Like, and there are like real consequences to it. And it's like, that's not even like Bayaz's like real power is more than just his magic. It's like his way that he can well, I guess I don't want to spoil the last book for
But I
anyone.
mean, it's also the fact that like none of your POV characters are magic users, and so then like, and it's I still, even though Bias is not a POV character, I have a better sense of like how magic works and
Yeah.
what he's doing than anything that was from every POV in this book was a magic user, and I have no idea how the magic is supposed to work.
When you read the first book in that trilogy, it does feel sort of aimless. You're kind of like, I wonder what this is all going to add up to. But then you get to the end and you're like, I get it.
But even then, when it was like, it's more just like, I'm not sure where this is going, but like, I'm getting a real sense for the characters. I'm getting a real sense for the world. I'm getting a real sense for the magic. I just don't know where we're going with any of this yet. Whereas this book, I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know what this magic is. This world, what world? Like, I don't understand anything, and I don't know where we're going with it.
And there's like a huge payoff in Abercrombie. Like there is a huge payoff. Like like you have these moments where you're like, oh, that was all worth it. Like all of that to get here to this point. And as I look back, it makes so much sense. Here, I kept like waiting for there to be a moment of payoff, like a moment of like character development, a moment of plot that made sense, a moment where it was like, oh, the magic, like something that would pay off and like make things click into place. And you never get that. And you like, even if it's a trilogy, you need to have like a moment in the first book that kind of like clicks it all together, and you just don't get it.
Even when you have to be good at least, like I said before, like if he was really into developing a magic system and clearly characters aren't his strong suit, I'd be like, well, that's not my favorite kind of thing to read. But like that's where your strong suit is. And if it was the opposite, right, where like you're not so good at world building, you're not so good at magic, but like you really get people, so this is like a people story, then I could also, that's a little more my taste. So like, okay, I get that that's what, like this is not going to be a perfect book, it's not going to be a great book, but like that's more where your focus is. It's like how a lot of people will talk about Sarah J. Maas books and talk about how she really should stop pretending to be a fantasy writer and just like lean into being a smut writer, because like that's where her interest is. And so when you read it, you're like, well, I don't like to read that necessarily, but I can see that if she has a strong suit, that's it. That's more what she's interested in writing. That's more what she's into doing. And so the other things suffer for that reason, because that's not really what she's interested in. So like, again, in a fantasy book where like the characters are it or the magic is it, and so the other will suffer for not being the focus of the author, but like there is a strong suit to be had, but this doesn't have one.
Or there's like that third option of being a plot driven book, right? Like I feel like Sarah J. Maas can do that too. Like
I mean, there was like several mystery type things in this, and so if it had really felt like a mystery type book where I could be like, I really want to know the mystery answer, but no, because most of it was answered really quickly and it was stupid answers.
Yeah. And so like they're like, because I can read books too that have just like a plot where it's like you're just constantly being propelled by what's happening next, and you can kind of get, and I feel like Sarah J. Maas does that too, where you kind of like ride this wave of like, oh my gosh, we're doing this, okay, and then we saw that and we're doing this, but like that's not really even what happens here, because it doesn't even be driving into a plot.
In answer to that question, no. When you read at the end of this book, it's more like well, we must regroup so that we can avenge the fallen dead. And the only like lingering mystery is like the fuck are Hearthstones and who are the gods, but like I don't care.
I don't even know, like it feels like the next book would be the same kind of thing where they just kind of like saunter around the world
around,
like more of this.
One of the covers has the picture of a dragon on it. Yeah. But also the way the dragon is described, I'm very confused about how I'm meant to picture it, because it's mainly, they call it a worm, which is like another word for dragon, basically, in fantasy books. But it's feathered and it has a beak.
Yeah. So like a hippogriff, too.
But I'm like, and then the way that it talks like a human being, like it can form, those sounds, but it has a beak.
Yeah.
And it has feathers.
Because magic. I don't know.
But it's a dragon. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah. Like, again, there's no like consistency to it, and like there's not even like a mystery, there's like nothing left over from the book that's like, oh, I wonder, like you don't really get that, because like some of the big things,
it's not even like the payoff of the prophecy. Like in this book you find out that this hero's been dead for 7 years, and then you find out he's actually alive, and then this prophecy that is foretold that only he can kill the big bad, the big enemy, only he can do it with this sword, he does it at the end of this book. So it's not even like with the Kingkiller Chronicle, where there's like a lot of things about Kvothe's legend, where like these are the things he's supposed to have done in his lifetime that he's a legend for. And then during the books, like the first book, you see like 1 or 2 of the things, and then the second book you see 2 or 3 of the things, and there's still a lot of things left over from his legend that like he has not done yet. But here, like there was one mystery and one prophecy, and both were resolved
Yeah.
and I
And, like,
care about nothing.
the 2 bad guys are
It's a
dead.
dinosaur.
The 2 bad guys are dead by the end of the book, and then, like, the queen might be a bad person, but I don't even think
She mostly sounds like she's written as being like the Hearthstones have like made her crazy.
yeah, which is like, ugh, I don't wanna
In a
I'm
matriarchy where the queen is in charge and she's crazy.
makes me so
We
mad.
love to see it.
I love like, I would have rather her been, like, intelligent and interesting, but we only meet her once, and then she's not even
And
that
again,
thing.
it's not particularly devious or cunning, her plan to, like it didn't feel like a, wow, deep, like, Jean le Carré story reveal of deep conspiracy of the state to
No,
find out that the truce with the enemy was actually because she wanted Hearthstones, and that there's this whole section of the other magic part of the government that's investigating Hearthstones. Like, it didn't feel Cloak and Dagger. It didn't feel like a deep, Black Ops, like, state
no.
secret that you found out. It's, like, in plain sight and is like, "Why didn't you know that she's been doing this? Seems
Well,
obvious."
like, she doesn't even have, like, a cloak and dagger reason for doing it. She says she's doing it because she thinks that she's going to bring almost like a second coming to her land in
Because
order.
everyone that interacts with the Hearthstones gets all loopy about this goddess coming back.
Right. So then it's like she's just crazy. That's just it. It's either she's just crazy or she's right and she really is trying to save her
Or I
people.
mean, but her craziness seems to be a kind of craziness that everybody who like gets in because like that what's his name, their friend from 7 years ago who like got too deep with his Hearthstone. He was also talking about the return of the goddess and how he's got to protect these people by freezing them in time until such time as the goddess returns. And they're like, oh, he's crazy now.
Yeah. And then it's like and then when, the bad guy, Decanon or Denacron, whatever his name is, like, then he easily, like, manipulates her too. Like, she's supposed to be this, like, brilliant queen, and then, like, he flirts with her a little bit, and then
Women are so easy to fool.
and that's, like, basically besides, like, Eleni and, Varama, like, all of the women, you can just, like, flirt with them to get them to do whatever you want. Like, that's basically
Sometimes they flirt with you to get what they want, like the beautiful sorceress lady who's evil with her beautiful evilness and her evil beautifulness.
waste of my life.
Love it.
Unhaul.
Yeah. The other covers are better than the first one. Like the one with the dragon on it was like pretty cool looking.
And I think that's why I was, like, bummed because I was like, "Oh, I like the idea of dragons," and I think that there were a couple of
I
things.
found that even though in theory I like dragons, almost every book that has a dragon I don't like.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's because they do this because it doesn't really make sense, but, this would be a good cool video game, I guess, like, if I had to, like, do these quests as, like, a first person.
I feel like at least a video game would have to make it somewhat clearer what the magics are so that you can interact with them as a gamer, like user.
But, like, yeah, yeah. Because, like, even, like, the dragon part where, like, Rylan gets to ride like, that's not a payoff. Like, all of these things that are supposed to be payoff kind of feel like disappointments
Yeah, well,
instead.
because also, I mean, like speaking of like Mary Susan Gary Sue's, like the fact that the dragon picks him to like be the successor, like it's not like if it had been set up where his whole life he was like, wouldn't it be cool? I really regret that back in the day they had these dragons to ride, and I'll never get to be a dragon rider. And that like he sees this and is like, wow, that's so amazing. And then for him to be like humbled by, but that doesn't happen. He just shows up. She's like, okay, you ride me now, and he's like, okay, I ride you now. Like,
Well, and it's like,
wow.
it's you that, like, Vrama is there. She's the more brilliant one. Like, she should be the one
She's
doing
afraid of
more
heights though,
doing,
because
but
she's
she's
a
afraid
weak
of heights.
woman.
So Rylan gets to be the hero. So
And then here again, like this is a thing that I thought like a better writer, I'd be confident in like he's making a commentary. But here I was like, I don't understand what you're trying to do with this. The fact that like Rylan himself feels like that the reputation he seems to be earning is unearned. That he like feels like he did a few things in battle and then he like took some trail mix from the guards and like that's all he's done. But then when he hears about how people talk about him, they're like, he's this great legendary warrior and he shuns the better food to eat with his men. And he's like, wow, like I didn't like, and that's where again it feels like Giselle where
yeah,
like except Giselle is very intentionally written to be that and about where like we're intentionally talking about how people build a legend around you that you don't necessarily earn. But here is just like it just seems like because like the fact that the common people have like rumors about him that grow and grow and grow, like that's kind of what Kvothe does, where he feeds lies about himself to like get a reputation on purpose. But here like there's also Varama who randomly chose him to stay behind to be her number two. So like you have people who actually know him and actually intimately know his abilities constantly validating him as well. The dragon did pick him. Varama did pick him. Like the what's her name who's in love with him with the metal skirt, she is into him. So like it's not just that people who don't know him, people who are, because like that's what happens with Giselle. People who know him are like, you're a piece of shit. But people like the common people who like see him do things, think he's handsome, think he's like done some heroic things that they've heard about. And like that's why it's a commentary
on like the masses and how easy it is to kind of like, you know.
Yeah, and so if it was a situation where like he had like like somehow gotten that position under Varama and she didn't want him, but he was the one that had been given to her as her assistant, she's like, fine, I'll work with what I'm given. That would have been a more interesting dynamic, and in the first place to read about is him having to earn her, and like that would make sense where she doesn't tell him things because she'd just be like, I've been like, you've been forced on me, so I will use you, but like I don't like it. But instead she's like specifically choosing him because like he's got more abilities than he realizes, and I'm just like, does he though?
You. Yeah. It was not like, none of it like paid off, and
So yeah. Don't recommend. It was terrible.
In the end,
we are not reading the trilogy. Absolutely not.
We were originally going to read all 3, and then
so I messaged you. I was like, I started the first one. I am not reading 2 more of these.
I know.
It's not happening.
Because by the end, I was just like skimming it too, because like it was just too much, and I don't know. Again, no payoff. If I'm gonna like spend and it like didn't read quickly because like some of the sentence structures are really weird. Like I'm a fast reader, and I was like, oh, a week for 380 pages, that's plenty of time. And it was a slog to get through, just like the prose. It was just
like, why isn't this over yet?
Yeah. But it's over now. And you're welcome. You don't have to read it because we did.
Spend 2 hours here instead of however many hours reading that.
Good reading that.
I was gonna say, like, it's only fun that I like knew someone else was suffering with me, meaning Heather.
Yeah.
Like if this had been a book that I randomly picked up, I would not have like finished it to post a review for it by myself. But I knew that like I could talk to Heather about it and like just get it all out. Plus, I mean, it's honestly like at this, I continued tabbing even though like I was like I need to just stop and just read it because like every time I saw something egregious, I was like I can't believe that's in this book, so I have to tab it too.
Yeah, because I've read like a lot of bad books in a fun and entertaining way, especially like some of the Kindle Unlimited books are like fun, like bad in a fun way, and it's like there's still like a plot, and they're short, right? They just kind of gets you through. But this one, like nothing.
And if it was like a situation where it's kind of like a simplistic, silly derivative magic system, but you're like whatever, like it gets the job done. But here, like, what?
Like I keep coming back to like comparing it to Serpent and Dove, where like the world building was kind of messy, the magic system was kind of messy, but I still had a fun time reading that book. Like it was a fun ride, and I felt like compelled to finish. But there was like nothing about like if we weren't going to talk about it today, I probably would have stopped about a third of the way through.
Oh yeah, I would have stopped on like page 20 and been like, what? No, this is terrible.
I think like if you are going to give it a try, you could read like 20 to 30 pages and you'll know right away if you care enough to continue.
Because like some of the grammatical errors are like on page 2. So.
And like even like and like the introduction of some of the characters right away, like the Elaney, like
Guile
herself. I probably would have stopped there. Like this is not going to be the book for me. Like
it'd be like looking in the mirror and thinking, oh, I look enigmatic.
Yeah.
Do you to yourself?
No, you don't ever. And like even then, like the things that like are supposed to be mysteries, like the first, like we get this kind of prologue of a visitor visiting.
I was gonna say I don't like Serpent and Dove, but also that is a situation where like the point of the story is this character relationship, and like everything else is incidental to that. But here, there isn't a point to any one thing where you're like, this is the thing, and everything else is incidental. All of it is incidental, so I don't know why we're doing this.
Well, and so I thought that like maybe Ellen and I like having a crush on Kirk and all, like that would develop into like a thing. But then like it never did. There wasn't even any chemistry. It was
she's just like very briefly a low-key jealous when she realizes that he's into Calandria, and she's like, sad for me. Okay, moving on.
And she would occasionally be like, oh, I really want his praise. Oh, he's really handsome. Oh, he's really this. Oh, he's really that. And so I thought it was gonna like get somewhere, and then it was just her fangirling over him. So that's why like a lot of the main character, like the 3 male characters, Nalar, Kirkconnell and Ryland just seem kind of like these male self-inserts, because it's like everybody's always like, oh, they're so good. And you don't get that. Like, I mean, you get like, oh, the women are smart and they can do their
Well,
magic.
Verama is basically Sherlock, so
I don't know who Eleni is supposed to be. LNA.
oh, you know who she is? If we're doing Sherlock, she's Molly.
What's his name? What's her name? Which one's Molly?
She's the she works in the lab, and she has a huge crush on Sherlock.
Oh, the show. I was like, okay, the show. Yeah. Like she's like convenient and she helps them do things.
Yeah, because that's what they use her for in Sherlock. She's always at the lab and she can like give them a thing and a science-y, solution. And she's just like doe-eyed for Sherlock.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, and like that's like her character is to just be kind of like, oh, you're so amazing.
So it's like if Sherlock was told from the perspective of Molly.
So the only redeeming character was like Ortok, but he's like not in it enough. So I don't know what to...
And even then, it's because it's like a fun comic relief type.
Because if you finally get to a point where you're like, oh, there's some like jovialness in this book at this point, where because like the other part.
Honestly, I felt like I understood him as a character and his motivations better than anybody else.
Maybe that's it too. Like his character was totally explained, because I think that he was trying to be funny with some of Ryland's and Kirkconnell's character jokes, but none of it's funny because it's.
Kirkconnell has that kind of Sherlock energy of like he's this like wild, rude badass who's the stuff of legend, but he's like so brilliant and so good at what he does, and he like quotes plays and it like says random things that seem callous, but I'm just like everything he says is stupid, makes no sense. The quotes from plays are terrible. When he says stuff, it doesn't come off as like. Because you can write a character where, like, in a moment that you would think would be dramatic, they'd say something flippant, and it feels like that's true for their character. And as unusual as that is, or as unexpected as that is, like, it fits. And this is not that. It just feels like the author thought, well, I'll just say whatever thing would make him sound wild, and then I just wrote that in, and it wasn't good or funny or fitting the character. And I'm like, no.
And it's like he kills everybody, like he kills really easily, and like she's like shocked by that, like, oh, that why he's crazy, because he kills. But then so it's like he's trying to create a morally gray character, but again, like you don't like feel anything about it, like you don't, because nothing feels like there's a point to it.
This reminded me of the part where Ryland goes to look at the corpse of the squire to like go check out the body so that he can report back to Verama. I feel like they explained to him like how he was killed, and he's looking at this mutilated corpse. And they're all like the people who are with him, like they knew him when he was alive, so they're upset about it. And Ryland says, well, damn. Like I literally circled that because that's his reaction. Well, damn. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, I think
we're done.
We're done.
Dancing the boil of rage that's been slowly filling.
Yeah, it was. Now I see why you make rant videos, because you just want to like get it all out. It's offensive.
It's cathartic.
Cathartic for sure.
So I'm excited to read gooder things with you and talk about gooder things. Like you'll be on the podcast to talk about Last Argument of Kings, and then in April we're doing our triple Lear.
Yes, that'll be
so. At the very least, King Lear itself. Yes, we know that at least one of the three will be good.
Well, and the thing is, I started the Queens of Enos. I actually have it right here. This is one of the ones we're going to be discussing, and I've actually like read like 100 pages of it before, and it's really beautifully written, and I like the idea. It was just really
which cannot be said for this.
Yeah. It was just really, really slow. And so I wasn't like in the headspace, because it is really long and it was very slow. And I was like, I need something like, like sometimes you just like need something that's a little faster paced. So that's like why I stopped, not because it was bad in any way, but because it was just a little slow.
And then of course we have no idea if Dunbar is going to be good, which is the Hogarth Lear.
Yeah, but at least those are short.
And I was going to say, like, as much as like, okay, I guess the only thing that we've read together that is worse than For the Killing of Kings is Macbeth by Joe Nesbo.
Because I couldn't even finish that. At least I was able to like.
Well, that one was like offensively bad.
Yeah, that one.
This is just like, what? Why?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, The
You
Lear.
hate Lear. Why? Well, it's not like my favorite. We did my favorite, Othello.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting play at the very least.
And I like the Queens of Ines Lear is like it's told through the perspective of Cordelia, and so I really like what that's doing. Like again, it was really interesting, and it like introduces a kind of magical system to it, and I think they're all women of color.
And I'm slightly more interested in because I like the play better. Tessa Grattan also wrote something based on Henry V.
Yeah, I said that. And this cover is really pretty too.
Oh, Lady Hotspur, that's it. Yeah.
So I'm excited for that one. One day we'll have to do that and Lady Hotspur. That actually sounds like really fun.
I'm sorry, Urza.
Okay. This was fun though.
Yeah. It feels good to let it out, especially because like I was finishing it this morning and just being like,
That was me last night. Like my husband, I just like every time I would just turn to him and be like, I can't do it.
It was also because like I need to be finishing for the end of the month the third book in the Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, The Ship of Destiny, and Robin Hobb is like on par with Abercrombie, and it's just like so good. And I'm like, I could be reading that right now, but instead I'm reading this garbage.
That's how I felt too. I was also like, I'm usually also like
Fair enough.
that is true. He's pretty awful. But I'm also like listening to a book that I'm not like really enjoying too. So I was like reading and listening to a book and I'm like, God, I need something better than this.
Well, I think we've earned better books.
Yes, yes.
But also pretty much any book we read after this will like benefit from this coming off of this. We'll be like, well, it's better than that. So like great.
All right. Well, thanks for having me again.
Yeah. And you'll be back again very shortly.
Because the next one's on Bethany's channel, right? Or
on the podcast. We're gonna do Last Argument of Kings, and then April Lear. And then at some point, Henry and Lady Hotspur.
Yes.
All right. Back on to better books for the rest of the weekend.
Here we go. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.